But thank you for being here. It'll be a wonderful night. I'm going to get out of the way here in just a second, but I consider it a privilege that we were able to open up our sanctuary for this meeting. And looking forward to whatever it is that's going to give God the glory, and expecting great things to happen. I've invited my friend, Pastor Bob Beckett from Dwelling Place, to come on up. You have a lot of friends here, Bob, and he's going to open us up in prayer.
Okay, let's pray, and then we're going to do the pledge. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together in a country that's still free enough for us to do this. And Father, we ask that your presence would come upon us and give us wisdom so that we can take this challenge head on with courage, with faith, and with confidence that your word is always faithful and is always true, in Jesus' name. Okay, would you stand and approach the flag? Hand on your heart, and remember, as you say these words typify why we are here tonight. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Incredible. Hey, this is Craig on the electric guitar. Let's give him another round of applause. What a great way to start this event, right? Hey, listen, my name is Chris Engel, and oh, thanks, guys. You'll get your checks afterwards, don't worry. Yeah. So, but I just wanted to thank you guys for coming. So I want to take a minute and just tell you a little bit about myself and why you're here today and what this event is all about, okay? So, like I said, my name's Chris Engel. I spent the last 6 years as a school psychologist, working for the Hemet Unified School District and the Temecula Unified School District. And back in June, I left the district, not disgruntled, okay, but I left the district to go pastor a church here in town. So the reason for me was simple. It was that I had spent the last 6 years of my life working in schools as a professional, working with students who had some of the most tremendous challenges, just the gamut. And day in and day out, I felt like I was treating symptoms. And I thought, you know what, I know what the root problems are for children, but I wasn't able to get to those root problems in the school. And I want to give a shout out to all of our educators, because you guys have a really tough job. Yeah. You guys have a really tough job because day in and day out, you're dealing with challenges that aren't related to reading and math and writing and all these other things. Yes, those are part of the challenge, but our kids today have so many bigger problems. And I want to tell you just a brief story and then tell you about the Freedom Coalition. So 3 years ago, I was working at Diamond Valley Middle School here in town as the school psychologist. I was assigned to that school as well as the Idlewild School. I spent a few years at Hemet Unified. I've serviced kids at Cottonwood, well, the list is almost endless, at a lot of different schools. But on this particular day, I sat in my car, as was my routine as I arrived on campus, and Diamond Valley starts a little later than other schools, or it did at that time. And so I was there early, sitting in the parking lot, and for whatever reason, I had decided to start journaling, which is not a really manly thing to do, right? And so, but I was journaling, and I was sitting in my car journaling, and I wrote these words in my journal that day. Today I plan to meet the boy who was chained to a tree. What do you say to a boy who was chained to a tree? Send him to the school psychologist, they say. He'll know what to do. And I contemplated sort of the events of that day and how I was going to handle the meeting with this boy. And it plays into the story of why I'm here today, because there are a lot of students in our district and really just in our nation who have tremendous problems and challenges. And we bring them into our schools, and the counselors and the psychologists and the teachers will patch them up a little bit and send them back out into the world that messed them up to begin with. And so for me, I began to develop a passion for helping kids and addressing the roots of the problems. When I was working as a school psychologist that year at Diamond Valley Middle School, we do these things called risk assessments. And risk assessments are something that you conduct on a child who is suicidal or who has suicidal ideations. We bring them in, we determine the level of risk, and if they're at an extreme level, like a level 3, for example, they don't go home that day. At Diamond Valley Middle School 3 years ago, we did over 100 risk assessments on over 100 different students 3 years ago. And there was one common factor that I discovered as I was doing risk assessments on students, and that was that I never met with a student and completed a risk assessment, or I can word it a little bit differently. I never met with a student who was suicidal or engaging in self-harm behaviors whose dad was at home and whose dad genuinely loved their mom. See, this is just my perspective as a dad, but if dad was at home and if dad genuinely loved mom, those children didn't want to kill themselves. Now, I know there's other factors that play into this, but that was the one that stood out to me the most. And so when I left the district and took on a pastorate here in the Valley, I wanted to get involved in some way. And so my wife and I attended a school board meeting a couple weeks ago in Anza for the Hemet Unified School Unified District. Anybody here go to that meeting in Anza a few weeks back? Yeah, awesome. There was a lot of parents there. That was my first board meeting. I'm sort of embarrassed to say that. I worked for the district for a number of years and never went to a board meeting. But we drove out to Anza because of all of these things that our kids, I have 2 kids in the district, that our kids were having to deal with related to the masks and the mandates and the vaccines and all the things that they're having to manage. And so we sat in that meeting and we watched parent after parent after parent get up and share and speak and talk about, you know, what impacts these mandates were having on their kids. I saw moms with preschoolers or kindergartners explaining to the board how it was difficult for their child to wear a mask, and how when their mask fell down, some of the teachers or the staff at the school were disciplining them and telling them, you need to get your mask back up above your nose. And I just sat and listened to this after one after another spoke, and I thought, we got to do something. And I also thought, there's an energy out there that exists. People are upset, and we need to bring people together and form a coalition. And so my wife and I knew a lot of the people that were speaking at the board meeting, and we called them all up, and we just said, hey, here's a crazy idea. How about we meet at our house, and we sort of form a coalition together? Because we have all these groups. We have the Unmasked Hemet group. We have another group out there for San Jacinto. Unmask Our Kids, I think is what it's called in San Jacinto. We have the Freedom Fighters in Hemet, and we have some other groups out there on social media and some other places. And we said, you know what? We know these people. We have some contacts here. Let's bring everybody together and see if they want to form a coalition to try to save our kids and bring our schools back to what they should be. And so we met 11 days ago, and we didn't even have a name. And so we said, you know what, let's do this. Let's figure out if we can pull something like this off and come together. And everybody was on board. Everybody said, yes, let's do it. And so we started strategizing. I contacted Pastor Tom. I contacted my other pastor friends, Pastor Bob here in the Valley, and we formed a coalition. And we gave it a name, and it's the name that you saw advertised for this event today. It's the Freedom Coalition of the Hemet San Jacinto Valley. And the purpose of our coalition is to redeem our schools, basically, is to try to create equity. Now, we'll be talking about this in the weeks to come. And on social media, and this, by the way, this probably won't be the only town hall meeting we have, so we don't have any scheduled yet, but in 11 days, this is what we could pull off. But our districts have hijacked this word equity, and equity comes from critical race theory. And so you'll hear districts all over California and all over the country talking about creating equitable experiences for staff and students. And they've hijacked these terms and made them sound good, but they're not good. At the core, they are communist and Marxist ideas, and they're trying to promote the idea that we live in a culture that's systemically racist, that if you are white, you grow up in a world where there's white privilege, and that the reason why certain student groups are not succeeding is because of the color of their skin. And the bottom line is, as a psychologist, that's offensive to me, because I'm a professional assessor. And if you tell me that a student is not performing or experiencing a learning gap because of the color of their skin, that's a racist remark in my mind, okay? And so I don't think people are limited by the color of their skin. I think that they're limited by their familial experiences, which I think is the #1 factor in limiting children. And we need to call out what it is. And if you're an educator working on the front lines, you see this every single day. You know that it's not skin color that brings kids down, but it's the relationships that they have with their families and the experiences that they're having outside of school. And so our hope is to challenge our board members. We're going to be talking about ways that we can do that together as a coalition. But I want to bring some individuals up and introduce them to you. So Sarah and Amy, they have been, they're 2 moms in our valley. I met Sarah a few years ago when we did something at Dartmouth on Halloween. We all dressed up like Star Wars characters. It was pretty awesome. And so, but anyways, they're moms that have been advocating for their kids. They've spoken at board meetings, and I've asked them to share a little bit about that experience and how you can get involved in our board meetings.
Good evening. My name is Amy Martin, and I am the mother of 3 children in Hemet Unified School District. We are here tonight with the Freedom Coalition to encourage each of you to get involved in the schools in our community. It unfortunately is no longer enough to just be a parent volunteer in the classrooms. It is also very important to attend school board meetings so that decisions regarding our children's education are not made behind closed doors. We cannot continue to allow the superintendents and the school boards to shape our children's lives while we sit aside foolishly and naively believing they have their best interests in mind. We need to start getting more involved. School board meetings are public meetings. They are typically held once, sometimes twice a month. The dates and locations are always provided on the district website. Put them on your calendar and make it a priority to attend. The school district will post their board meeting agendas online the Friday before the meeting. This can be found on the district's website under the board tab. I encourage you before each meeting to open that document and familiarize yourself with what is being approved. If you have concerns or questions, you can sign up to speak in the open hearing session during the meeting. All guests, including parents, grandparents, students, and community members, can address the board. You're given the option to fill out a public participation comment card, which will allow you to address the school board for a total of 3 minutes. If you have the courage, speak up. Tell the board your concerns. Tell them your experiences. We must be an advocate for our children.
Thank you, Amy. My name is Sarah Tibbetts. I'm a mother of 5 children here in the Valley. 4 of them, which go to Hemet Unified. I appreciate and agree with everything that Amy has said. The time is now to speak up. In the most recent Hemet Unified board meetings, there have been many passionate people voicing their opinions. It's been wonderful to see the increase in attendance. I think Amy and I have been attending since we've been able to since the beginning of this year. We've gone to quite a few. But we need more voices to be heard. We need each of you, whether it is from a Hemet school or San Jacinto school. If public speaking is not your thing, which it's not mine, please still attend and support the parents who are speaking and listen to and support the community members. Out of all the levels of government, the school board directly impacts our community by shaping our local government-run schools. They hold more power and responsibility than most of us have ever realized. We all felt this effect last year when the schools closed down and COVID regulations were put into place. It has severely impacted the lives of our students and families. It has been a long year and a half. The decisions the school board make regarding district policies and the curriculum taught in our schools will directly impact the future of our community, because our children who attend those schools, whether it's Hemet or San Jacinto, will eventually be the adults who live, work, and own businesses in our community. We need to act now and speak up. We encourage each of you to come to the next board meeting. Listen for yourself what is being approved. Speak up for what you know to be right, and hold them accountable for their decisions. Thank you for being here. Thank you to 412 Church and to Chris for putting this together. We hope that we have inspired each of you to attend your next school board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Amy. Hey, you guys know what the top 2 fears are? They've done studies on this out there and tried to determine what are the top 2 fears that people have. Anybody guess what the number 1 fear is? Public speaking. What's the number 2 fear? Death. Why is public speaking above death? I mean, there's people out there that would say, you know what, I think I'd rather just die. Yeah, I think I'll just die right now. Anyways, listen, you don't have to speak publicly. That's important, but we want to encourage you to come to those meetings and make your presence known. I want to ask Damian Betcher if he's here, if he can join me up here on the stage. Damian has been working with us. Well, one of the things that we've been doing with the coalition is we've been putting together some petitions. These are not legal documents. These are just opportunities for us to say to our school boards, we have some things that we are very serious about, and we want you to know that there are people in the community who have signed their names to a petition, and are with us in this. And so Damien's going to share with us what those petitions are and how you can get involved.
Thanks, Chris. So my name is Damien Betcher, and I also have 3 kids in the Hemet Unified School District. And I wanted to speak tonight about one of the efforts, like Chris mentioned, that's currently underway to communicate to these boards that we're unhappy with the way they're handling some of these issues. We have 3 petitions here tonight that address what we feel are the 3 most pressing issues right now. The first is the unequal treatment of vaccinated and unvaccinated students and staff. We're asking the boards to create policies that do not discriminate against students and staff based on vaccination status, and this includes testing, quarantine, and participation in extracurricular activities. The second petition addresses mask mandates and simply requests that the district allow students and staff the personal freedom to decide whether they want to wear masks or not. And the final petition addresses a longer-term issue that Chris touched on earlier, and that is the indoctrination of our children with racist and Marxist ideologies. I'm sure you're all aware of critical race theory and its infiltration of every educational institution in this country. So this last petition simply asks the school boards to reject these racist and Marxist ideologies and instead focus on equity, justice, and fairness for everyone, regardless of their immutable characteristics. And like Chris said, these aren't legal petitions. It's just a way to call attention to these issues and try and get the board's help in correcting the course of our children's education. So please take a moment tonight and sign these petitions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damien. Awesome. So the petitions are out on the patio out there. We have a table or 2 set up, and this is an opportunity for you to get your name on that petition. We are going to be presenting these to the school boards in Hemet and San Jacinto. And the more names we get on that petition, the more powerful the petition becomes. So we want you to take the time to get your names on those petitions today. And if you want to take one and have some individuals or friends of yours sign that petition, we've got a few extras that you can take. And we'll be presenting those, like I said, to the board. I want to introduce someone very special to you, Carly Myers. Carly Myers is our mayor here in Hemet, and she is a fighter, let me tell you. So I've asked Carly to share just some personal things about her journey as a mom in Hemet. So.
All right, thank you very much. I am not just the mayor in Hemet, but I live here. I'm a community member. I'm another normal person that lives in our city. I just decided to run for office because I want to make a difference. I'm coming to you today as a mom. My husband and I have 4 kids. They've all attended Hemet Unified. Praise the Lord, I only have 1 left. I homeschooled before this, so you can see how hard this is for me to let an entity think that they are in control of my kids. It's very difficult. But I want you to know, this is the experience that I had last year, and last school year, so it was just this last March. I had 2 boys at the time at Hemet Unified playing baseball. And I showed up to a baseball game that was advertised as a game, that was dressed out as a game, that had umpires as a game. And the gates were chained shut with deadbolts and padlocks, and the parents were not allowed on the field. Out of respect for my kids and my husband and our police chief, because I did do call-ahead seating at our jail, I went home. I went home because I was going to go flying over that fence, and I didn't care. I did contact a civil rights attorney, and there were several parents, maybe some here today, that stood with me and signed a mass tort claim against the school district, and it goes after their indemnification clause if they do not comply with our civil rights. Your schools cannot deny you access to your children. They cannot. Hemet Unified has put a new rule that parents can't bring their kids lunch because of COVID. Guess what? you can go get your kid and take him to your car and give him your lunch because you are their legal guardian. If they want to start paying for your kids' bills and adopt them, then we can talk. But I don't see anybody trying for that. So this is going to take everyone. Today we're here not just as parents, teachers, and our students, but we are fighting right now for the voice of freedom. This is going to take everyone. This is going to take everyone standing up for our rights. This is about the nurses who are leaving their jobs and moving out of state because of mandates on their health care, and it's nobody's business. This is about the firefighters and the police officers in some of these cities. They are putting mandates on them to get vaccinated or be fired. I would take that as a badge of honor for anyone who gets fired for that, because since when is our health care anyone else's choice? I will respect everyone in their choice, whether they want to wear a mask or not, if they want to get vaccinated or not, if they want to take their asthma medicine or not, or if the diabetic wants to have a cupcake or not. It's their choice. So let's all stand together for this.
Thank you so much, Carly. Thank you. Hey, if you, no, we're not taking questions right now, but if you want to hang out afterwards, you can ask Carly a question. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer your question. Somebody asked if we were going to do a question and answer time, and we're going to have to do this again so we can have a question and answer time, all right? But we just don't have time for that tonight, so I'm sorry. But most of our guests will be here afterwards if you want to ask them questions. By the way, did you notice that Carly pointed at me when she said diabetes or whatever? Like, what was that all about, Carly? Hey, listen, I have another special guest, Brian Hawkins. He is here tonight. Brian, would you join us up here on the stage? Brian is a pastor, Pastor Brian Hawkins. Brian is, he pastors a church in San Jacinto. He's also on the San Jacinto City Council. Brian is also running for state assembly. Am I right about that? Oh, for Congress, I'm sorry. Brian is running for Congress. I told Brian, I said, Brian, you have about 7 minutes to speak. And that for Brian, he's just warming up in 7 minutes. And so, but anyways, Brian, why don't you tell us about about yourself a little bit? And Brian and I had a chance to talk yesterday. He shared some interesting things with me about the history of politics in California, just from his perspective. And I thought that was pretty powerful. So would you mind sharing with us some of those things?
I forgot.
You forgot what it was? You want me to tell you? Yeah. It was about your mom. She was born in 1946, right? Oh, he's messing with... I was going to say, let's go in the back and fight, but I don't want to fight this guy. So anyways, thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. The titles don't mean anything to me. I'm really a servant. If you guys watch my van throughout the campaign, you know, people start calling me Mr. Everywhere because I like being everywhere and being involved in everything in any way I can help. But in studying, I found out something, as he was saying earlier. My mother was born in 1956. And the Democratic Party has held control of California since 1956. Check that out. Think about it. Somebody asked me, man, why are you Republican? As a matter of fact, you want me to tell you who asked me why I was a Republican? And I don't mean to make this a Republican thing, but I'm just going to tell you right now. The former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, asked me that a couple of weeks ago. I had just drove to Washington, D.C., and it was something that really bothered me when I drove to D.C. One thing I noticed that there wasn't that many American flags flying in D.C. As a matter of fact, I remember I told my wife, I said, you know, D.C. kind of looked like a pirate ship. And there are a lot of black flags flying everywhere. And you'll see Black Lives Matter everywhere now. I don't know if you guys know this, but I am a Black Life. But to some people, I don't matter, but that's okay. So I'm gonna tell you guys how I started this journey. If you go back and look last year, when the schools got shut down, I actually got with a lawyer, Hemet Dillon, and sued Gavin Newsom in the school district. I was one of those plaintiffs, kind of quiet, kind of silent, until Kevin Kiley tweeted it out that we won in the Ninth Circuit. And then Gavin Newsom turned around and filed an appeal to say that they really can't have that type of, lawsuit against him. And so then I decided to run for office because I wanted to really prove that my skin was not my setback. I really wanted to challenge a lot of narratives out there that was telling me that systemic racism. I never knew that being black was always a handicap. But that was my motivation to get up every day and to speak for the people. And so my children, my kids, I heard everybody say Hemet Unified School District. My children go to school here in San Jacinto. They go to Estadillo Elementary School. And my daughter's sitting in the back, and somebody said they hijacked in the word equity. Well, this past couple of weeks, my daughter was running for elite leadership in her school. And she was real excited. She's back there, she just loved leadership. I don't know where she get that from. But the whole weekend, she was working on her poster, and she did all the things that the teacher had told her to do. And when it got there, the teacher told everybody that they had won. And in her, she felt like, man, what was the point of me putting in the effort then? That's the new equity that's going out. So right now, there's an actual legislation that we're working on that's going to be on the ballot, hopefully next year, to actually promote school choice. There's only 6 names on that initiative, and Brian Hawkins is one of them. So now is the time to really be involved, to really get involved. It's going to take more than just Carly Myers, and man, I love her strength. I hope you guys are praying for her. She's an amazing champion. I sat back and watched all of what she went through just to run for office. And I'm going to tell you right now, anybody that decides to get into public office, trust me, especially running for city council. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we don't get paid anything. Or okay, maybe like what San Jacinto, it's $156 every 2 weeks. And so people call us like we get paid full time. And we're expected to get paid full time. We're expected to be full-time servants. And that's what it is. But I'm going to tell you something. Critical race theory is real. And not only is it real, it's actually being taught in the schools, and it's so detrimental in so many ways. Not the study of it, because there's a lot of truth in the study of it, but the language in which they're trying to say this is what we're teaching. And the reality of it is this is what they're not teaching. It's unfortunate that it took all of this for parents to really start getting involved. And I thank God for, schools being shut down, because it really woke a lot of parents up. Because they've been doing this for a long time. Do you guys know that critical race theory is older than anybody sitting in this room? So this is not anything new. But what is new is parents getting involved and the community getting engaged. And this is really what it's going to take. It's going to take the collective effort of each and every person that is sitting in here right now to say, I have had enough. It reminds me of World War II, the attack on Pearl Harbor. There was another battle that happened right after Pearl Harbor and was called the Battle of Midway. And if you go back and you study history, Admiral Yamamoto said they woke up a sleeping giant. And that's exactly what I'm looking at right now, a room full of awakened, sleeping giants. And you guys are more powerful than what the media is saying. Stop letting the media get you angry, because that's not what's really going on in the rest of the world. I just got through driving back from North Carolina. My father passed away last year. Not from COVID. I don't want people to think that, but my dad died on the plantation that our family used to be slaves on. How powerful is that? Me and my wife, we drove to North Carolina and we walked on that plantation, 40 acres. And I got to see what my dad and my family was slaves on. And I ended up making a video called Runaway Slave to Running for Congress. There's a reason why I'm here now.
Brian, who owns that land?
My family do. Me and my siblings, my brother, my sisters, my cousin, we own that land that we used to be slaves on. I don't know what your political affiliation, but I'm the Democrats' worst nightmare right now. I really am. I really am, because I'm telling you right now, I'm coming to destroy the race card. I'm coming to destroy racism. I'm coming to destroy the division. What I'm really excited about is the day that we have a revival in Washington, D.C. And so I want the saints of God to get ready, get excited. I'm telling you right now, listen, this is going to be an awesome move of God. I'm going to be here, throughout the duration of the evening. I'm excited to be here. Thank God for this, Pastor Tom. Thank you for allowing us to come here. I'm going to be on board with this 100%. Last night during our city council meeting, we did something that no other city has done yet. We passed election integrity resolution. Now, only reason why I say no other city has done yet, because Carly Meyer is extremely busy. So I had to beat her to this one before she got a hold of it. But we want to make sure that there's a fair election, and we want to make sure that everybody know that their ballot is protected, that when they cast a ballot, it's going to count. And that's what we want to guarantee here in the city of San Jacinto. So thank you guys, and God bless you.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. And like he said, he's going to be hanging out afterwards if you have some questions and want to hit him up on some things. I do want to say a shout out to San Jacinto, because we have a lot of Hemet residents here and a lot of people representing Hemet. One of our goals in the coalition is to bring that same representation to San Jacinto. And so we need some leaders to rise up within the community of San Jacinto. We need some parents who have students in the San Jacinto Unified School District to say, hey, we want to be a part of this coalition. So if you're interested in that, make sure you hit up our table outside, get your name on the list, and just write, hey, I want to be part of the leadership team. And we'll get in touch with you and figure out ways where we can make some changes in San Jacinto as well. I have a special person that I want to introduce to you. This is Netta Higuera. Did I say that right, Netta Higuera? Yes, I got it right. Netta is no stranger to 412. She's been here. But she's an attorney, and she has spent the last, 7 years, right? Since 2014, yep. Do I have that right? The last 7 years working as an attorney, advocating for faith and freedom issues. And I want to say this before we get started, Netta. Netta has agreed to stay after our event. We're scheduled to wrap this up at 7 o'clock. But after the event, Netta is going to stay, and around 7:20 or so, she's going to share her story. She is a Palestinian immigrant, and her story is super incredible and powerful. I just want to encourage you, if you're able to stay a little bit longer tonight, hang out, and you'll have a chance to hear Netta's story. But I actually talked to Netta yesterday for the first time. Yeah. And so we talked a little bit, and I just wanted to get some perspective, Netta, on some of these legal issues that we're facing in schools. And I asked you a question directly about mask mandates, about vaccine mandates. Can you share with us sort of the legal side of that, and and what's the environment right now that we're sort of operating in?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. Thank you all for taking your time out because you care about our children and liberty. It blesses my heart that you are all here. So thank you. And it also motivates me to continue to fight. As a constitutional lawyer in California, it's not the easiest thing, and we have to take a lot of losses, but we carry on and move forward. And so the legal climate with mask mandates and vaccines, the hindrance that we have is that our governor, Gruesome, He declared a state of emergency over 18 months ago. And what that state of emergency did was it took power out of the hands of our local city council, of our local school boards, of our county school boards. And it put that power in the hands of unelected bureaucrats at the California Department of Public Health, who we don't even know what they look like or what they're talking about or what they're basing any of these orders on. But those are the people who are passing these mask mandates and the vaccine mandates as well, and the social distancing and everything else. And until we get that state of emergency lifted, that's going to continue to happen. And we've tried, and other lawyers have tried as well. We currently represent the Orange County Board of Education because they wanted to be able to give parents the option about mask mandates. And so we took that to the California Supreme Court directly, and we asked the California Supreme Court to end this state of emergency, because the Emergency Services Act was never meant to give unlimited duration to have a tyrannical governor rule local schools and local cities and everything else. The state of emergency actually suspends the normal legislative process and due process and having your voices heard. And so what that does is it does tie the hands of local school boards and school districts and your city council and everything else. It ties their hands, but it still doesn't prevent them from taking a stand, right? And from doing the right thing. And so even the Orange County Board of Education, they were bold enough to sue the governor because they want to give parents choice. And we're still continuing that. The California Supreme Court said, no, we don't want anything to do with that. So we're now bringing it to start in the lower courts and taking it through that way as opposed to directly to the California Supreme Court. And we just wrote Gavin Newsom a letter, and we're giving him 10 days to rescind the state of emergency, or else we're going to start that lawsuit in the lower court. And your school boards can sign on to that lawsuit. They can write letters. They can do a lot of things. I mean, their hands are only tied in so far as, they'll go against the law. But at the same time, they need to be the gatekeepers and be your voice. So I can keep going, but let's hear it.
No, that's awesome. So I just want to say this, that we may have a different governor in 6 days. So yeah. Yeah, so listen, it's really important for you to vote. Listen, if you're on the fence, if that ballot's sitting on your counter or whatever, fill it out, get it turned in. It's really every single person in this room needs to vote. And I know that if we do replace Newsom, a lot of these things are going to go away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and briefly to tell you how hypocritical they are, we had a lawsuit representing Godspeed Calvary Chapel in Thousand Oaks, Pastor Rob McCoy. When they had shut him down, they sent county officials in the parking lot to spy on the church. They threatened arrest. They threatened to fence off his church so he couldn't get in there. And so we filed a lawsuit last year. And a few months ago, in July actually, the governor's attorneys wrote a brief to the court saying, this is no longer an issue because we now have therapeutics to deal with COVID, and there's not going to be any future orders. So they got what they want. The church is open, and it's going to stay open, and there's, it's not like we were last year. And so the judge was like, okay, and dismissed the case. Yet they're still holding on to this state of emergency. And it's still, they're now revving it up with the Delta variant. As serious as that is, they're revving it up and passing more mandates. And so, we used the governor's lawyers' briefs against them, and that's evidence now. They're saying, well, we have vaccines, and we know how to deal with this now. It's not as urgent as it was back then. And so, they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth, and it's horrendous.
So, Netta, what can a parent do if they are really struggling with sort of the vaccine mandate or the mask mandate? What are some things that parents can do, just from a legal perspective, to maybe instigate change?
Yes. So instead of, going to your school board members, you can run and be a school board member. And one thing I want to challenge your organization to do is identify which board positions are up for re-election next year and who lives there. And when you can find those moms up there today, I want to see them on the school board. You know, I don't care if you want to or not. I want you on the school board. And so your organization and what we all can do is support them financially, support them through prayer, support them through knocking on doors and campaigning, because the other side is really good at that. And they've been good at that for a while. And so it's time that we fill the school board with people who will take a stand, even when, you know, the California Department of Health says one thing, they'll actually give parents that option. And, you know, the threat that school boards, that superintendents say, well, they'll, you know, the state will pull funding if we do a certain thing. Well, I can tell you there's no law that allows them to do that. I can tell you there's no precedent where they've done that before. And so it's not really a legitimate fear that superintendents should say, oh, well, we're just going to be defunded. You know, that's not how this works at all. So they can take a stand and they can give parents choice. They also can choose how they enforce it, you know, how strict they're going to enforce it. And they can give exemptions as well, particularly for mask mandates. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that they can do and they can be lenient on. They don't have to be an arm of the state. In Nazi Germany, what we heard was, oh, well, we were ordered to. That's not an excuse. And these are our elected officials, and make them tired of hearing your voice and we can work on I can even write them a memo to a particular school board that says, well, if we do this, we're going to lose funding. I can tell them, you know, what the law says and that it's okay. And we even offer to represent school boards pro bono. We're representing the Orange County Board of Education pro bono. So that's one objection that the taxpayers, you know, they always say, the opposition says you're wasting taxpayer money. Well, you know, I'm so happy when I get up there and say, absolutely not, they're not. I'm volunteering to do this. They're not paying a dime of taxpayer money. This is all pro bono.
That's amazing. So, two questions for you. They're kind of similar in nature, but we have a lot of educators that are here. And by the way, I said this earlier, thank you for coming if you're an educator. I know how scary it is for you to stand up and say, hey, I don't agree with certain things. You're afraid for your job. You're afraid to be identified. You think you might get blackballed or fired. I get all of that. But we just want to thank you for coming. We need more teachers to rise up and have the courage. And so you being here, I think, is going to create a movement among our staff and our teachers. But I want to ask you this, Netta. So if I'm an educator, if I'm a teacher, and the district says you must be vaccinated, what are some of my options if I'm opposed to that?
Your options as an employee of the district is 100% to have a religious exemption. And on our website, faith-freedom.com, we have draft religious objections. And there are legitimate reasons why you would have a religious objection to this. And so we have that. And we also have resources on how to submit the religious exemption form and what your employer can or cannot do. Like, they cannot require your pastor to sign something, because under the law, it's just your personal, sincerely held belief. Nobody, you know, the Christian next to me doesn't have to agree. I'm sure a lot of, you know, Christians who are in this room disagree on certain things, and that doesn't make your beliefs less valid. So we have those resources, faith-freedom.com, and there are other organizations as well who have religious exemption forms. So that's one thing. You can also, depending on how bold you want to be, is just refuse and get fired. And like someone else said, that's a badge of honor. And you can, I think other people would see that and admire you for that. And so, you know, just don't do it. Don't, you know, roll over and comply. Be lions and not sheep.
Yeah. So the follow-up question, Netta, is so in our school districts across California and our nation, the teachers' unions are extremely powerful. Hemet Unified, and I don't know what it's called in San Jacinto, but in Hemet it's HTA, the Hemet Teachers Association, that covers all of the licensed or credentialed staff. And then there's another association for the unlicensed or the staff that don't hold credentials. What was that? Yes, the classified, thank you. Yeah, there's a name for that. I forget what it is now. But anyways, but nevertheless, the teachers' unions have become super powerful and very intimidating. And I'll just share with you a little brief story here for me. So my first year working in Hemet Unified School District, I shared with you already, one of my sites was Diamond Valley Middle School. And I got an email after about a month on the job from our union rep at the school. Every school site has a union rep. And the union rep sent out an email to all the staff, and the email said this. It said, hey, just let you know, open enrollment is happening right now for the union, and we have a number of individuals who have not joined the union, and so we're really encouraging those to join. Here's the list of those that have not joined. And guess whose only name was on the list?
Good job.
Me.
Yay.
Yeah. And so I never joined the union right from the beginning, just because fundamentally I didn't agree with what they stood for. And they didn't know me. They thought maybe they could intimidate me, but they didn't know me. And so I just hardened me even more. And then I started telling everybody, hey, if you get out of the union, you can save $120 a month. And add that up over a year, and you can go on a little trip and a vacation. And so anyways, one of the messages that the union is putting out there, Netta, and I don't know if you have an answer for this, but we didn't talk about this, but is that if you aren't part of the union, you have no protection, and therefore your job is in jeopardy. And so that is a powerful message that the union is telling teachers specifically, is that if they don't pay their union dues, if they're not part of the union, then they have no protection, and they'll lose their jobs, or they could potentially be sued, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So do you have any thoughts about that?
I do. So if a union has a collective bargaining agreement, that does apply to all of the teachers, even someone like you who was not in the union. So
can you clarify that? So if I'm not in the union, the collective bargaining agreement covers me also?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're a teacher and you're not in the union, you're covered underneath the collective bargaining agreement with the district.
But you can't, have a union rep with you. You can't go to the union for help, obviously. I mean, but I want to also say there's a Christian union that is a lot cheaper, and they have lawyers and resources for teachers. And there's also another organization that, maybe we can talk about another time and have a presentation from that organization, Gateways to Better Education. And what they do is they connect like-minded teachers together in the same area, like-minded parents as well, and people who have students at certain schools, and they also educate teachers on what their rights are. For one thing I didn't even know as a lawyer is part of the California standards with history includes lessons on the Bible. So you can actually teach the Bible according to the California standards, and they'll show you what page in the standard that lesson is and what it says to do, and so you can present that lesson. And they have a lot of resources like that, and what you can do on Christmas and Easter and things like that. So being able to kind of be a light at your school. So Gateways to a Better Education. And then the Christian Teachers Association is, I think it's just that, United Christian Teachers or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
CEAI.
Okay.
Christian Educators Association International.
All right, there you go. That's a mouthful. But listen, you can pay into that. You don't have to pay into anything, by the way. There was a law that was passed, and I don't remember.
Yeah,
when that
Janus U.S. Supreme Court case, because prior to the Janus decision, which was a few years ago, it was mandatory that they could just take your union money and then go advocate for, critical race theory and whatnot, and abortion, Planned Parenthood, and you couldn't have a say. And so that obviously violates your First Amendment right of association. So now you have the right to not be associated with that and keep your money.
Yeah, and so one of our strong desires as a Freedom Coalition is to defund the teachers union. And the only way that we're going to do that is for educators to have the courage to to get out and stop paying their union dues. And if we can get 51% of the teachers in our school districts to pull out of the union, they no longer have a majority. And so there's some very powerful tools that we have at our disposal to defund them and then to gain back a voice for ourselves. And so if you're an educator, we have some information outside for you and some helps. There's some teachers that are actually teachers in our district that have some courage, that have said, hey, we want to help give courage to others. And so they're manning the table outside. They can fill you in on information on how you can withdraw from the union and stop paying your union dues, okay? Netta, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I wish we had
Thank
some
you.
more time.
Well, I'm sure we could do this again. And our website is faith-freedom.com. You can find my information on there. You can find information about the cases we're working on. You can find the religious exemption form for employees in all contexts and students as well, not public school students, because unfortunately they've whittled away at the exemptions the legislator has. But yeah, we have a lot of resources on there. You can sign up for our newsletter. So I would love to connect with some of you guys, and yes, I'm sure I'll be back again for something more in depth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, and like I said, Netta she's gonna hang out here. If you have questions for her, feel free to approach her and ask some questions. And in about 15, 20 minutes, we're gonna have her back up on the stage, and she's gonna share her personal story of how she ended up as an attorney working for Faith and Freedom and for Tyler and Bursch out in Menifee or Murrieta. And so anyways, listen, our website, we're going to put a picture of that up here. We want you to go onto our website and check it out. We also want you to ask to join us on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to be using our social media platforms to communicate with you guys. We have some important events coming up. First, we have a board meeting in San Jacinto this week, tomorrow night, all right? So if you're a San Jacinto parent or a resident, go to that board meeting. Start educating yourself on the process. Start advocating for the students in your community. We also have a board meeting next week for Hemet Unified on Election Day, all right? And so that's also more important, honestly, in my mind, is that you vote on that Election Day. We're going to be all celebrating that day when we get gruesome. That's what Nana said. When we get gruesome out of office. I'm going to use that. That's good. But anyways, if you're a parent in Hemet, we want you to go to that board meeting. You can find information about it on the Hemet Unified website. And there's also a rally that's scheduled, I believe, for this Saturday, the 11th, in the Target parking lot. We have information about that outside as well. And so anyways, just want to thank you guys for coming. This is the beginning of something big. And these types of events are happening all over our nation. And Americans are rising up, and we're going to take back this nation. And so, God bless you guys. Thank you for coming. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.